may have to help me figure this out.
Zoom's complicated. I don't know if I know how to.
None of us are tech savvy enough.
One thing we know is you know how to play football.
Sorry.
Someday I'll have to tell you my Motorola stories because we did the headsets for years for the NFL.
That's
I've
right.
been to 10 Super Bowls and 10 Pro Bowls.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. I forgot
Yeah.
about that, yeah.
It was fun. Met some wonderful people.
Oh, I bet.
I'm about to click the go live button. Is everybody ready?
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
All right. Good deal. Here we go.
Hi, everybody. Bob Williams here, CEO of Ranch Hands Rescue. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to give just a minute for some people to join, and while we're waiting, I'm going to attempt to do a watch party, all right, for everybody that's joining us. So Landon had to instruct me how to do that earlier.
I'm sure I missed something.
I think I can figure it out with your great expertise.
We
And of
do have
course,
one person watching, so let's get the party going.
Yeah, and I am kind of stuck here with this wonderful internet that we have up here at the lake. So, well, let's hope people are just joining our. Maybe you could share it to my page, Landon.
Sure.
We're going to change our format up a little bit tonight because our one of our guests has to leave a little bit early due to some training issues. So before we get going, I just want to thank those that are joining us tonight. I think you guys know we put this on YouTube and others, and it gets thousands and thousands of views. So I'm really honored tonight, and we're very lucky to have three special guests with us this evening who are champions for mental health awareness and suicide prevention. This family has transformed a tragedy into purpose and hope for others. I'm so honored that the Thomas family is with us tonight. I'm very sorry for your loss. I do understand pain and grief, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be with us tonight. Landon, our clinical director, I know has a personal relationship with you all, and so I'd like him to give us the honor of introducing you. So Landon.
Thank you, Bob. So these kinds of things are wonderful to have, but they're also tough because we're all part of a club that we wish we weren't members of. So we've all experienced some sort of horrific loss that bonds us together. And so I wish that we weren't part of it, but I'm so honored to share the space with you guys. Y'all are an inspiration to me. You keep me going. I mean, between the first time I met y'all and then the way that y'all stepped up to help with Touched by Suicide, and then the protest in Capel, like I was just so honored to be able to stand beside y'all there. It's just, and Solomon, the letter that you wrote, like I still read it. I'm tearing up thinking about it. It's just, I'm so, as much as I really wish that trauma didn't happen to people like it does, it never ceases to amaze me, the growth and the purpose and the joy that people bring after it, and bring to those in the rest of our community and throughout the nation, and hopefully even the world, because I do believe in a ripple effect with this kind of love and hope. And like we say in Touched by Suicide, love and hope will survive. And Ranch Hands Rescue, we're all about igniting hope. And particularly for those who are survivors that are either unseen or unheard, that people just don't seem to recognize, and we want to elevate those voices. And I know that's something y'all are passionate about too. So again, thank y'all so much for being here, and I really look forward to our chat tonight.
So we've got, go ahead and introduce them individually.
Absolutely. So we have Chris and Martha Thomas. Would y'all give us a brief intro from each of y'all, and then we'll introduce Solomon.
I'm Martha, and I am mom of Ella and Solomon, wife of Chris, passionate defender of our family. And I'm an educator. I'm a seventh grade Texas history teacher, and bringer of love to many, I hope.
You're going to make me cry.
My name
Beautiful.
is Chris Thomas. Martha and I have been married for 35 years, June 16th. We lived in Capel here for the last 15 years. My background the past 30 years has been in sales and marketing, working for a variety of top 100 CPG or consumer product good companies. But now, our passion and my passion is to really just turn our tragedy into purpose and to help raise mental health awareness globally, in particular among youth, to make sure that we give them the tools, resources, as well as awareness to help them developmentally and to help them survive and thrive throughout this world.
And thank y'all so much for that work. It's just incredible. And I know that you also are working closely with AFSP, and then the Out of the Darkness Walk this year. And though it was a virtual event, I heard it still went well, and I'm glad that y'all did that. So then let's turn to Solomon. I know you play for the San Francisco 49ers, and again, as I mentioned before, in that beautiful letter. And so I'd love to hear from you, kind of give a little intro about who you are and what brings you here.
Definitely, I'm Solomon Thomas. I am son of Martha and Chris and brother of Ella. But yeah, I've just been, ever since Ella died by suicide, suicide prevention and mental health awareness have been a huge passion of mine, just to bring light to, the stigma and into the world of mental health. Everyone goes through it, and no one really talks about it. And it's something that if you haven't gone through, you eventually will go through. So just mental health is just a huge passion of mine. It's something that my sister already was doing before she died by suicide. She had a passion for helping those in need and those going through certain struggles, and she just was great at making people feel valid and making people feel important. So I'm just here to bring light to it, bring awareness to it, and make it try to make a change in this world in the way we approach mental health. So I'm just using my platform to to speak, to start the conversation, and to raise money and raise awareness.
Solomon, I was telling your parents earlier, you said, so Mike Ducey, from Fox has been a huge supporter of ours for years. All right. Mm-hmm. And Mike, he chairs our galas and he's our MC and very involved with us. And I remember when this happened, and I actually had a couple conversations with Mike, but I read something, and I don't know if it was from NBC Sports or, one of the sports networks, but you said, men are supposed to be strong, and we're not supposed to talk about these things. And it really resonated with me because I'm a survivor. I was raped as a teenager. I know what it's like for services not to be available for boys. I know what it's like for my dad to say, hey, we need to man up. I just think it's amazing that you have the ability to recognize that and be able to share your feelings publicly. I mean, I just think it's incredible how many people you can help.
Definitely. Certainly in my struggle and my own grief, what helped me most is talking to people who have gone through certain things or have shared certain emotions. So being able to speak about my emotions, my pain, what I've been through, hopefully I can help others know that it's okay to talk about your emotions. It's okay to talk about how you're feeling, and it's okay to, just let it out there and be weird or be awkward. Those are normal emotions, and they're valid and they're important. So just to make sure that men know it's okay to be vulnerable, that men know it's okay to not always be a tough, strong, macho guy, or just the old school mentality we have is called tough or strong. The new strong needs to be vulnerable, and to just to make sure that you're always making sure your feelings are valid and your feelings are important, but also make those around you make sure they feel that their feelings are valid and their feelings are important. So that's what the new definition of stronger to be a man is, just be a good person.
I love that. I'm now the president of your fan club.
Same. Same.
I appreciate it.
And Martha, can you tell us a little bit about Ella and what happened, how this all came about?
Ella was a light of life, but she also struggled with depression. She was passionate about trying to help people, but maybe not passionate enough about trying to help herself. She was obsessed with her dog Mickey. She rescued him, and we now
That kind of girl.
And I think Mickey has rescued all three of us. She loved him. She loved children, but she struggled and had a tragic rape at the University of Arkansas and never really recovered from it. It kind of sent probably some issues that maybe she already had into extreme issues, depression, and her depression became severe. So.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I think that a lot of people don't realize this is very real. All right. And, my father had said to me back after I was raped, he told me, you're just going to man up and we're going to sweep it under the rug because, that's what you do. You don't talk about it. You hope, we're taught to be strong and tough and it's hard to ever know. There's no book on it. You know what I mean? And we're learning more and more every day about depression and different things, but there's still so many things that we don't know. And for a young person, it's very difficult because, as I mentioned to you earlier, in my deepest, darkest days, I didn't want to be alive. I didn't really care what happened to me. And so, we're going to do something for you. We're going to remember Ella in a very special way at the ranch by putting a plaque up in her honor. And that's going to be my gift to you guys, something really special so that her memory will live on with us forever. And I think it'll give people a lot of hope. All right. But tell us, when this happened, then all of a sudden now you guys have all become this voice for mental health awareness and suicide prevention. So you've taken such a terrible tragedy and you're turning it into so much good. I mean, when they sent me the prep work, I can't believe all the news interviews and stories and different things that you guys are doing. It's just wonderful. All right. But I also know it's painful. So you want to just talk a little bit about that and kind of where how that has helped you and has it helped you to heal?
I mean, I would say definitely talking about it has helped us to heal a lot. It was pretty weird. So after Ella passed away, normally when someone passes away, kind of talking about the issue, about what's going on, about the person. But when Ella passed away, because she died by suicide, there's this big barrier around it and people don't want to talk about it. And it was just kind of weird. Like people were just coming over and just telling us they love us. And it was sweet and we appreciate it all, don't get me wrong, but it was still, I could tell like, okay, there's something missing here. And it was a suicide fact. And so one of our big missions of talking about it is to also change that process to, make it like when someone dies by suicide, to make sure people know how to talk to people who have just been through the process. Because it took us a while. It took me about 8 months to be able to start talking about it, 6 months to start talking about it. It took me a while to freely and want to. And so, but when we started talking about it, it was just big to us to, just making feel people included, making feel people comfortable. And just really a big point was just to, to start the conversation, just keep walking through our grief. So that's been one of our big reasons why we talk about it and why we keep talking about it. But I know my parents have, that's just something that's been on my mind today, but I know my parents have other reasons why we talk about it and why we keep going through our grief.
Yep.
Right.
You mentioned one thing about turning tragedy into purpose. And, one of the things Martha and I and Solomon try to talk about all the time is making sure that we alert young people and those who care for them about the significant and growing pandemic that exists amongst mental health, depression, and suicide. Amongst young people, it's the #2 cause of death. And so our goal is we can just save one life by talking about it, by helping people understand that it's important to talk, it's important to get the right resources, get them in front of the right organizations, so that we can stop this, and so that we can save lives and help people live for tomorrow. And it's just an important part of our mission in our life. And one of the things we plan to do as a result of this is to start a foundation that's going to help people to do this and help them, get the right tools and training to help them to live their life fully.
Well, I love that. And I'd love to help you start that foundation. I've been doing this a long time, so I've learned a lot. I think it's absolutely incredible. One of the things I was going to say too, Solomon, is we've driven this discussion about, a lot of people don't talk about boys and young men being human trafficked, all right? And now in the country, and I think you guys are aware that we've committed to opening the first safe house in the country for young men 17 to 24 that have been human trafficked. It's a big problem with boys. Up to 50% of human trafficking victims in the USA are boys. And boys and young men, I should say. And so, Solomon, when you mentioned earlier about the creating awareness, you got a very high rate of suicide amongst this segment of the population because they don't see any hope, all right? We see it with veterans. We see it with battered women, all right? And I loved what you said, because that was my same philosophy, Chris, when I started Ranch Hands Rescue. I thought if I could just save one person, make a difference in one animal's life, that it would be all worth it. So, so day to day, how do you cope? I mean, what is it for you guys that in dealing with Ella and really trying to make a difference in the lives of others? Because I think it's important for families to know.
I would say day to day, kind of like things we work on, things we do, we kind of just talk openly as a family. We're always on interviews, talking with different people about our story, but as a family, we try to honor Ella and everything we do. We talk openly about her stories, how we miss her, but also just, just kind of our everyday life, to live for Ella, it's important to us. So we want to make sure that we honor her with how we live. So she was passionate about helping others. So we want to make sure we help others through mental health awareness and different things like that. And she was passionate about, loving and she just loved everyone. And she just would just always make everyone feel important. So we want to make sure that we make those day-to-day communications with people very important and very valid. So, we just want to take, and just like other small things, like, certain mental health, methods to work on yourself, whether it's meditation, going on like different apps like Calm, Headspace, journaling, reading, exercising, be healthy, drinking water, getting good sleep. All those are small practices as daily that you can do. Because like when talking about mental health, like people don't realize it's a science that, there's a chemical imbalance in your brain, but there's also a science to getting better, and there's a science to working on yourself. So it's important that people understand that these are factual things and that these are real things that are happening. It's not made up stories or anything like that. It's real life, and there's real help out there too.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing, Solomon. I think that, as a celebrity, you're a role model. And so I think kids today, I know, need role models. All of us do, all right? And so I think being able to have these conversations with young people is critical, to let them know that it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to talk about how you feel, and to really resonate with that, with individuals, so that they have the ability to start to talk about it, their feelings.
Definitely, yeah.
Oh. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. Sorry about that.
I was going to ask you a couple questions. What do you think is the greatest need for change and advocacy for this issue? One of the things I'm sure you're familiar with North Texas Giving Day and other things. I'm always amazed that those of us who are working in this field, and I'll give you an example, the dog and the cat rescues, they'll take in, $150,000. but the organizations that are really helping victims, right, will take in 25,000. And it's because people are really uncomfortable talking about sex trafficking, talking about child abuse, suicide, things like that. Where do you think the biggest area is for the change and the need?
Really, I believe it's a mindset. I believe just making sure that people, start talking about it, that people understand it's okay to talk about it, that you don't feel weak, or some people feel like when you talk about this, you're a burden to someone because, you're saying, you talking about sad things, or talking about how you might not be feeling well, but that's okay. That needs to be the normal, to talk about how you're really feeling and how, what your true emotions are. I feel like that needs to be the new normal, or the new common conversation. Just like to be able to freely express yourself to a stranger, express yourself to your friend, or someone's close. So I really believe that the biggest thing is starting the conversation and starting, to talk about it. I also believe the research is huge. To make sure we have more back research, we have more back science, we have more back methods. Because I also believe that the process of just throwing people a couple pills, I don't think that's a very incredible process. I think we have a better science process and a better research process as well. So there's a lot to work on, but my biggest thing is bringing awareness and bringing the normality to just having a conversation about how you're feeling sad or not, or awkward or weird.
And Bob,
Yeah, the feelings are real.
in addition to that, one of the things that also ties into the previous question you had about how we, work our survival is it's okay to go out and seek therapy. And, we do it on a regular basis to make sure that, we keep ourselves in check, and that we, continue to sharpen our saw. And we, like Solomon said, we talk about, Ella's life, and we talk about it amongst ourselves, but also with her friends. We have them over. We just talk about the great stories and the great life that she lived, and how she still has an impact on people here still with, what she did while she was alive. So, but the therapy piece is really critical. And, I know that, it's sometimes people think it's taboo to look at therapy, but it is okay. And the other piece I'll add is mental health needs to be considered as human health, and that we need a way to not think mental health is a second step to physical health. Martha could tell you more about this, but when she took time off, she only got a certain number of days off because it was the mental health versus if it was cancer, if it was, getting a leg transplant or any kind of other physical surgery or ailment. It was unlimited time to take off to, get ready. But for the brain, we don't treat it the same way.
Well, absolutely. And, I can't even claim to understand what you went through because, it hasn't happened to me. But I can tell you that I've seen many, many situations like this, and I certainly understand. And we can't tell somebody how long it takes to grieve or how much time they need. You know what I mean? And we've got to take care of each other. So I couldn't agree with you more, Chris, 100%. Can I ask you, Solomon, how has the NFL been? Have they been supportive? And is there anything, are they doing enough to highlight the issue? And I don't want to put you on the spot. If you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. But I just wondered.
I can talk more from the Niners. The Niners have been extremely supportive of my family and I, and talking about mental health. And our community relations team does an amazing job getting me in front of, great groups to talk to, or great organizations to talk with. So I know the Niners are incredibly supportive, and they have been behind our back all the way. I know the NFL is doing a better job. I know last year they came out with a new mental health initiative where they started, I don't know all the details, but I know they are trying to help get free therapy for players and family members, and just make it more normal. So I know they came out with a big initiative last year, and that was a big deal. But so that was huge from the NFL. But yeah,
it's important.
It is.
Well, good for you. It's admirable. Landon, did you have a question?
Absolutely. So I just wanted to echo something that Solomon said earlier. I know that you have to go soon, but one of the things that I've learned doing this and watching people like your mother, this is strength. Not the holding it in and carrying the load and pretending like you're fine. This is strength. what you're doing, what she's doing, what your dad's doing, that's strength. Because we all know grief and trauma are an incredible burden. It's so heavy. The only way to carry the burden is to share it together. But even then, it's just such a weight. It takes so much strength to carry that weight and keep moving forward. So, I mean, it's incredible to watch you do this and for you to be here. But also, I really want to know, like, because you're in the spotlight and you're a role model, like that adds pressure. So what can we do, people like myself, to support you in this?
I really believe probably just carry along the message, just to, share the story, share my story, share my family's story. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Since talking about mental health publicly, we've gotten nothing but support and love. And we want to just continue to share our story and continue to share our feelings and we find ways to help, raise money, raise awareness. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just probably to share the story and just keep it moving.
Well, you can count on us to do that, and you can also count on us to add your family and you to our perching so that you are safe, and we're going to send you angels and prayers to help you on this journey. But listen, now that we're buddies, you and I, Solomon, I never want to miss an opportunity. This is why when people see me coming, they run the other way. Don't forget to send us some giant stuff for our auctions and our fans here. You know what I mean? That's right. We need some autograph things that we can sell to the public here to raise money.
Yes, sir.
But I'm so honored. I got to tell you, and you're extremely bright, and very knowledgeable on this. And I'm sorry that you had to become knowledgeable, but the way that you speak, you need to be on every talk show. I mean, my belief is talking about Ella and how incredible she was and what you're dealing with, because you're extremely eloquent, and you've moved me to where when I was talking to your mom and dad earlier, I told them, I said I have to try not to cry, because I read your letter that you wrote. I'd never read it before, and Landon sent it to me and said, you have to read this. And I said, and this is right before your mom and dad were coming on, that we could talk a little bit. I said, I got to pull myself together here. I couldn't get through it. It was so absolutely beautiful. So I just want to let you know that was, she's got to be looking down on you smiling, because talk about from your heart. I mean,
thank you.
And if it's okay with you, we'll post it, because I think people need to read it. It was just beautiful.
Of course. And before I have to leave, that was amazing article, and Molly Knight helped write it with me, and she did an amazing job and helped out a lot. But my dad said one thing earlier. He said about physical health and mental health, and they're both connected to a T. Stress, fascia is your tissue all around the body, and if you don't have enough water, and the worst thing for stress is the worst thing for your fascia is stress. And so that is your mental health, and that can ruin your tissue, and your tissue relates to how you move, how you play, like all that kind of stuff. So mental health and physical health are connected to a T in a lot of ways. If you're not clear up here, your body's not going to move. And I could go on and on, but I just think you work on your physical health every day. You need to work on your mental health every day. They're both just as important. And like same with your gut health is connected to your mental health. So how you eat, how you exercise, all that relates. But I really appreciate you having me on, and sorry I have to leave, but thank you so much.
Oh, we understand. You're really special. You really are. And as I said, we wish nothing but great things for you. And now I get to watch you play and say, hey, I know that guy. So it's a big honor for me. Yeah. So thank you so much, and God bless you. All right.
Of course.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Hi, Solomon.
Hi, Sally.
So, boy, what an amazing guy. You must be really proud.
It's quite an honor. And like Martha mentioned earlier, we were so blessed. Ella and Solomon were both great kids. And, aside from Ella just being vibrant and fun and hilarious and just loving, Solomon is just the same. And Ella was Solomon's big sister, and she rubbed off on him. And he's just a kind, compassionate young man. And
Oh yeah, you can tell.
he's wiser than a 24-year-old should be, probably.
Yes.
Yeah, no, he really is. He's the real deal. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ella was funny, the funniest member of our family, though.
Yes.
And for the longest time, that was so hard to not have that, because we laughed. She was like a stand-up comedian, and she'd take the edge off for Solomon. Like, she kind of would warm him up, especially, going into things in groups of people or whatever. It was they were the best of friends.
Yes.
And Martha, she was a great athlete, right?
Yes.
She was a basketball player through high school, but she didn't play any in college. She was tired of it. She in Capel, the girls' basketball practices at 5:30 in the morning.
Exactly. Yes.
Every day.
Yeah.
And so she was done after 4 years of getting up at 5:30.
Yes.
Yeah.
When teenagers shouldn't be doing that, she was done. But
What's your favorite Ella story?
Oh my gosh.
There's probably 100 of them.
Yeah, one was when we used to serve at a homeless shelter once a month.
Mm-hmm.
And we went one time, and some people were standing around, and Ella goes and grabs things, and she's walking amongst all the homeless people, and otherwise the people from the church were kind of gathered together in the corner, and she just started grabbing socks and bagged lunches and was carrying them out to people out on the floor. And one man gave her his shampoo. It's still up in her room. And before we left, I said, "What are you doing with that? You can't take this guy's stuff." And she goes, "Mom, he gave it to me. He needed to give to me too." And
I love that.
it was beautiful. Like she knew, but she had some great wisdom too. But
I thought, I have this belief that young people, especially in her situation, are angels. And I really believe with all my heart that God needed her in heaven, and that she was here for that short time to make a difference and I know it doesn't make it any easier for the people that love her, but I really do believe with all my heart that they're angels.
Yes.
she's definitely.
One of the things when Landon mentioned that we do the AFSP walk on a yearly basis, and we call our team the Ella Sunflowers. And one reason why that's the case is there's a quote that says, "Despite knowing they won't be here for long, they still choose to live their brightest lives." And it's a sunflower quote. And we really think, to your point about her only being here 24 years, she did have a bright life, and she impacted so many people. And Martha's story was really good. One of my favorite ones is when we were on vacation one time in San Francisco, and she had the heart of gold, and she decided she was just going to take some money from Martha and I and just go out and give $1 to every homeless person she could. And it was just the way she lived. And I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, they're going to go off and buy something they shouldn't buy," but her perspective is, I just want to help somebody. And so
I agree.
When she
was a giver.
Yes, she was an absolute giver. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think, Landon, do we want to take some questions? Because I think this is fascinating, and the things too that we've learned tonight. Take some questions from people that are.
Absolutely. So thank y'all for sharing that stuff. One of the comments was from Amelia, and she said, say their name, share those stories, and because that's part of how we carry their loved ones with us. So I really appreciate y'all sharing those stories. Bob, I think that the plaque we have in Ella's honor needs to have a sunflower on it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree
So
more.
some of the questions, one of the first ones was, Martha as an educator, and then, Solomon having the platform he does. Is there any kind of partnership going on between the NFL and schools related to mental health awareness?
Ooh. Chris and I spoke at a symposium the NFL put on in Miami for Miami-Dade County schools. So I know that there's some things like that, and that was all a mental health, a whole day of training of mental health for high school athletes, their coaches, and administrators.
And the parents.
And so there are some things like that. I know they're hoping to do more of them depending on what happens in our world. I know Solomon is incredibly generous with his time at my school, and comes when he can, to visit. But I don't know.
He's done the same thing in Palo Alto High School too. Palo Alto has a very high suicide rate. It's the highest rate amongst high school students in the country, and so he's
Really?
up there to. In fact, they have a mental health awareness club that he talked at last several times. They hadn't come up when he's in town for training, but yeah, it's a fairly high suicide rate out that way. And
Wow.
at this point, the NFL is looking to do this across the key major cities where they have, like Miami-Dade County, they have mental health counselors. It's the first in the country where they have them available at schools to be there for children. And part of it that came out of the shootings that took place in, I think it was Lakeland, but they modeled that approach across the key middle and high schools to help provide the training and the resources for people who are suffering from mental health. And Bob, one of the questions you asked earlier about what the NFL is doing, one of the things that Martha and I have been doing is working with the NFL's VP of Wellness. Her name is Inyaka Lalamti. She's the one that got us there, and she's the one who's been working with the teams on making sure that there is a therapist in each setting, each team's facility, so that players, through the therapist as well as the player engagement office, can get the mental health support they need on a regular and ongoing basis. But and then the last
Wonderful.
thing I'll shut up is that the AFSP has some fantastic educational program modules for middle as well as high schools that schools can have available. And that's one of the things we're working on, is to try to get that information to the schools, in particular those that are highly affected.
I got to tell you, I love that idea. I think that these schools need this information. Excuse me. I really do. I think that this thing needs to be nationally in every school. Now, you guys serve on the board of Touched by Suicide, am I right?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Okay, great. So you want to tell us a little bit about that work?
Yeah, so Landon's part of that board as well. And we primarily work on having a walk each year to help raise awareness and raise funding, like Solomon had mentioned. And that's the key thing is, aside from trying to silence the shame and the stigma, is how to put together the right funding so people can get the right tools proactively to help, improve their mental health. Practicing mental health is like brushing your teeth. You got to do it every day. And so how to get the right training and tools out there to people. And so that's a big part of the board, driving awareness, having the right reading resources available, and also, helping people like Landon and the lost team. One of the things I didn't realize, unfortunately, we had a loss here of somebody here in Capel who lost their child. And the lost team, obviously with COVID, they couldn't go see them lifetime like they did when they came to see us with Ella. But I didn't realize that there wasn't a lost team in every major county in Texas. In fact, there's only 3 in the whole state of Texas, and there are numerous states that have 0. And so that's part of our drive and mission, is how do we raise funds so that there's a national approach to having a lost team to go in there and talk to parents, because we didn't know. I mean, it's bad enough losing a child.
Oh yeah.
When you lose a child to suicide, it takes on a whole different level. So that's sort of what we're trying to do on the Touched by Suicide board.
But it's also the actual support group is has been incredible.
Yes.
So it taught us how to listen to the truth about other people's suicides, as well as for us to tell the truth. Because in that group, it's safe, and we weren't being judged. Where on a regular basis, people don't want to hear, like they don't want to hear, or even if we mention Ella, or people kind of go, oh, they might not be comfortable hearing about, or what's she gonna say, like,
Right.
well, I'm gonna say talk about my daughter,
Right.
and that's been really important with Touched by Suicide, that
Yes.
we have been able to hear the truth, but we've also learned how to speak the truth without feeling judged. And that's helped us to go out and continue to tell the truth about our emotions and our mental health, and where we are and how we're feeling.
I think you're heroes. I really do. All three of you. I think you're heroes. I think it takes a tremendous amount of courage with something so difficult. And unless you've been through it, you can't, there's no rational person can understand what it's like as a parent, I'm sure. And I tell people that with me, unless you've been through a rape or you've had things like this happen to you, you can sympathize, but you don't really understand. And so we've got to listen to each other, and we've got to help each other. And the judgment has to stop, because we are all innocent victims. She was an innocent victim. You're innocent victims. So am I. We all are. And I think it's time, really, that people need to wake up, and we've got to stop the stigma.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Landon, how about another question?
Sure. Just still reeling. That was fantastic. Y'all are amazing. We, one of our big initiatives here is sexual assault and sex trafficking. So what the clients we tend to see out here, and that I've really been developing my expertise and specialty in, is complex trauma, complex PTSD. And this is another thing that's just not talked about very much. It's kind of like the way that the concussions were in the NFL years ago, where it's like, this is a very serious thing causing a bunch of other problems that are being presented in treatment, but nobody's talking about the root cause. And so, I'd love to bring y'all in on some of our sex trafficking initiatives, because, as Bob mentioned earlier, those who have survived sexual assault, particularly sex trafficking, are over 3.5 times more likely to have a suicide attempt, not just suicidal thoughts, but an actual attempt. And that those numbers are completely unacceptable. And a victim is a victim is a victim. We've got to put a stop to this. And the questions that are coming in are all about how people can get involved. If y'all are willing to come out and speak and educate the public. So I was hoping that maybe y'all could speak to how others can get involved with us, and then also what kind of initiatives y'all really want to support and get behind as far as community education is concerned, because I definitely hear that that's a big focus.
Before they answer, though, Landon, let me just say one thing, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Martha and Chris. I do want to say that, running a not-for-profit isn't easy. I mean, I spend 24/7 trying to raise money, but I always tell everybody it's not for me, it's for our kids. And it's for those that we serve, because our services for victims are free. And so when people have suffered trauma, regardless of any of our 28 partner agencies that send them to us, we want to provide those services for free. And I am really intrigued by this foundation that you want to set up. I think it is critical that we all work together, and that not-for-profits and CEOs of not-for-profits help each other and share information of grants and fundraising and what works and what doesn't work, because we all have our own thing, but a lot of these issues, they cross over. When I first interviewed Landon, and I could see how passionate he was about the LOST team and, and suicide prevention and mental health awareness. And I was like, you know what? We deal with this every day. I need somebody like you with that same passion. And so I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to tell you that, you know, we're going to support you, and we want our supporters to support you in any way that they can. So go ahead.
Well, I'll share a few things about some of the work that I do at AFSP, and then I'd like Martha to perhaps talk a little bit about the foundation we're looking to start called the defensive line, and we'll get more into why we named it the defensive line in a second. But one of the things that I find very benefiting, aside from working on the board with Touched by Suicide, is I'm on the national board for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And the great thing about this organization is they are unbelievable in providing resources, advocacy, and funding and awareness training for suicide prevention. And the goal is to reduce suicide by 20%, 25% by 20% by 2025. And the great thing about AFSP is they've got chapters in every state, and there's a North Dallas chapter, there's a Fort Worth chapter, there's chapters in all the major cities throughout Texas, and there's a representative there that can help people there locally, whether it's with awareness training or trying to get through a loss. It's just an amazing organization. We've been blessed to work with all the people in New York, from their CMO Christine Mortier to their CEO Bob Gettia, to all the key people here locally like Sarah Allen and Karen Siska. So it's a really great organization that is up in front of all the key legislators here, like trying to get a 3-digit suicide number for implementation for suicide, but also trying to get the funding available for making sure that mental health is treated equally at the same level as physical health. So that's, to me, is a key piece. So people can look at afsp.org. You can really see some of the things they have available. They have great research and information, and they're a fantastic organization nationally as well as locally. And then to your point, Bob, our goal is to turn our tragedy into purpose. And this defensive line foundation, our goal is to make sure that we equip people with the right tools and training, like other companies, to help drive awareness and to help people not take their life, and to help understand that it's not a stigma. And let Martha talk a little bit more about what we're trying to do, but it really is something we're passionate about, that we're going to look to launch nationally first, but then hopefully globally as well, because we've been fortunate enough to live outside of the U.S. and Australia, and we've got a lot of people there who want to support the foundation and help drive it.
And they have a dreadfully high suicide rate. It's
in
worse.
Australia?
Yes, especially young men.
Mm-hmm.
It's their #1 cause of death.
Yes.
Well, even if you look at the GLBTQ segment, the amount of kids who are, homeless as a result of coming out, all right, and the suicide rate is very high, because, especially amongst transgender kids.
Yes.
I talked about this last week as we had Chief Dixon on from the Denton Police Department, Chief of Police. But, we had a child, 16, sex trafficked for 8 years to both men and women. Didn't know if he was gay, straight, bisexual, transgender. You know what I mean? Just horrific. There's nobody that can even imagine it, right? And so I just think that's incredible. But I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead, Martha.
No, I think, we don't do enough to educate, to provide education in the schools. Teachers are on the ground with the kids. I know that I hear things and try to help kids or try to refer them to the right places. But what if we really had really comprehensive training in the schools, not just a 30-minute check the box, you've done your suicide prevention training? What if we had something that was much more thorough?
Mm-hmm.
And what if we demanded that of our school districts, rather
Absolutely.
than, that if we kept, we see teachers see kids that struggle, but we can't do it all. I mean,
You can't, no. Not with the size of the classrooms today.
But we're on the ground with them, and I think that we're on the front lines with them. We're there with them, and we need to provide more on that front.
I love it. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I think you're spot on. Any more questions, Landon?
The questions are about the defensive line. Love that idea. Love the name. So, like, what would the foundation? The questions are: what would the foundation entail? Who would you be working with? Like, you know, partner organizations. Just a little bit more of the detail, I think, about, you know, what the plan is.
We're working on it still.
It takes time.
Our goal is to help to make connections with starting with young people, high school aged, college aged, and expand from there. And one, teach people how to make connections with each other. And look, because we're not like that, we've lost that, right? Like, it's really easy to lose, but also, like we do with support group, teach people to tell the truth. We're trying to tell the truth about our feelings. We're trying to tell the truth about our mental health. So how can we teach other people to do that, to be honest, and to also not just to be honest, but to be willing to listen when someone is honest with you. Not say, oh, come on, you're fine, but to be real.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Boy, that is brilliant. I got to tell you, that's brilliant. Although running a counseling program, we understand it, but you said it very, very well. Yeah. I think it really should resonate with people. How about the school systems? Do you think they'd be receptive to it? You know, I know that there's been a lot of pushback on drug and alcohol programs because they're like, okay, you know, we don't want people thinking that we got a drug and alcohol issue. We're not going to sell houses, right? So what do you think?
I think, you know, schools have speakers come in every year, usually a few times a year, or they have programs that are being run. I think schools might be open to it. You know, I think.
Well, I would hope so. I would hope so.
You know,
Because I think it's change. We need to change the dialogue.
We do. And, you know, just to, you know, as having worked in this stuff a while too, like, you're right, there's a certain resistance that comes with the idea that we don't have suicide here. Like, that is kind of an attitude. But to Martha's point, I think that the solution to that is the connection piece. It's having that relationship with the faculty, with the parents, with the children, because it's a lot harder to say, oh, that's somebody else, when you know the person personally. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's the connection and the relationship. That's why the equine and animal assisted counseling program here works. It is the same exact thing. It's that connection. You have to feel safe, then you can trust, and then you build a connection. And if those three elements aren't there, it just falls apart. So I love the way you said it.
Absolutely. And I think it's also a top-down approach. Aside from, I think part of the goal for AFSP is to work with the governors of the country to say, hey, you need to have a comprehensive suicide prevention mental health development program that can help provide the right school systems, sort of curriculum, or just some tools to share. And it's a problem, an opportunity across the whole country. When it's the #2 leading cause of death amongst 15 to 29-year-olds, I mean, that's a problem, and it's even worse.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it's even worse amongst, you know, African American females. The rate has gone up 100% over the last year. So we got Native Americans is an issue. It's a significant problem, and so you got to fix that from the top with the governors of the world, and also from the bottom as it relates to working with the school superintendents and saying, hey, this is a problem. When you look at a city like Capel, where they've had at least a half a dozen suicides in the last couple of years, it's a problem. And you can't put your head in the sand and think it's going to go away. And so that's the other.
If we had as many kids died from cancer or accidents or whatever, there would be an uproar. We would be digging up the soil and replacing it. We, have streets removed and changed, but it's suicide, and so that doesn't happen to me,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. When we started the dialogue, it was interesting because when I first got asked to look into this issue with boys being human trafficked, there's not a lot of data. And the myth is that boys can get away, boys are strong, all right? And so we started looking at the data, and the data is still poor, it needs a lot of work, but there's a lot of work being done now to fix that. But what I'll tell you is if you look at the national stings, and we've been driving them all over to say, because all you'd ever hear about was girls and women. And so there's no question that's a problem, that we've got to get the predators off the street, and that our children are not for sale. But the reality is nobody was tracking boys. And so now you're starting to see national stings where they're targeting the predators, all right? Because as I say, they're going after the kids. And now it's becoming more public and when you look at the data from those stings across the country, it's about 40% of them are targeting boys, all right, out of all the arrests. And the numbers are going up. They just need to do, more stings. So I think that you're absolutely right. And one of the things that I always tell people is we've got to stop the judgment, and we've really got to listen with open hearts and open minds to say, okay, because it's only for the grace of God, there go I, right? I mean, I tell people all the time too, it's interesting that, when people get involved with us and they're passionate about the work we do, in some way their child has been affected by sexual abuse, or, we get the veterans that have come to us and they were sexually abused as kids, but it was never reported. It's like all of a sudden, or they had a family member, a friend, and then they go, yeah, this is important work, because we're dealing with the segment that's not getting better in another program. Our criteria, there's all kinds of wonderful organizations to help individuals. I wanted to focus on the individuals that weren't getting better in a program. So when, I would say to people, where do the people go that you can't help? Those are the people like me that need a different or more alternative approach to mental health. I'm excited about your foundation. Landon, can you post the link to the national organization so that, if anybody wants to get involved in that they can? Where are they out of, the national group?
FSP's out of New York.
New York. Okay, great. Wonderful.
They do have local chapters here in Dallas as well as Fort Worth as well.
Yeah, and I learned a lot tonight. But one of the things I feel, I wished I would have met Ella. I mean, I didn't, I feel like I know her now after this. And, there's a joy in my heart. There's a sadness too, all right? And I can see it in all your eyes, and I saw it in Solomon's eyes. I mean, but I do feel like I know her, and I want to be one of those that help you celebrate her and see how, how this situation, this tragedy can turn into helping others. I'm excited about the foundation. I think it's going to be incredible, but I learned only 3 counties in Texas. I mean, Landon, you didn't do a very good job of educating me here. I had to get my new buddy, Chris. That's really shocking to me. You know what I mean? I really had no idea that, talk about a need.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Well, and it was, the support group and having someone come to see us was so, it was just, it was a game changer. I mean, it's just been so important for us.
Yeah. And to your point, Bob, I mean, it's absolutely neat. One of the things I learned from AFSP in 2018, on average, one person dies by suicide every 3 hours in the state of Texas.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I always tell people when I'm doing a training that, those signs on the highway that tell you how many accidents there have been, or deaths by car accidents there's been in the state, updates you throughout the year. You can keep pace of the suicide deaths in Texas almost to the T with the number of car accidents. The numbers are almost the exact same every year. And I think with suicide on the rise, we're likely to see that number surpass deaths by car accidents. And it's a way to keep a pulse on what's happening, but it's also just a humbling reminder of how serious an issue this is.
Yeah, and we have a standing meeting every Monday night. Izell and who's our general manager. And by the way, for those of you watching tonight, Izell can't be with us. I would appreciate if everybody say a little prayer for him. He's really had a hard time here the past month. He's been sick. His COVID tests have come back negative. But he does have bronchitis and some breathing issues. And so they did retest him again, but he's had like 4 negative tests for COVID. But they gave him a bunch of new medicine, and he's really an amazing guy with an incredible family. And so I hope that you guys will just say a little prayer for him, that he gets better quick. It's tough not having him with us because he's so passionate about the work like everybody else. And I know he feels bad. He wanted to come on tonight, and I said, you need to be resting, so hopefully he's doing that. But and then of course Landon. So we in Landon had to miss our meeting Monday night because you were doing a Touch by Suicide event, right?
Yeah, I was there as the host because our president had a loss of her own recently. Thankfully, I mean, it was not a suicide death, but it's still, the grief compounds, and it's a heavy weight. So I wanted to be there to support her on Monday night.
Right. And now that we're all friends, I'll probably be asking Chris for some marketing advice and some other things. And
absolutely.
I'm not sure how we can leverage Martha from the educational piece here, but we'll probably figure out something. But
absolutely.
in all sincerity, this is a big honor for me. I learned a lot. I appreciate your openness and your honesty. It's very kind of you. You guys are my kind of people, I got to tell you. And if there's ever anything that we can do for you or for anybody that that is struggling, that comes across in your groups, I promise you Ranch Hands Rescue will help them with counseling or anything that you need. We'll support you with your endeavors with the foundation. We're going to pray that all of you stay healthy and that Solomon has a great year and he stays healthy, right? But it meant a lot to me because I can tell that you're kind and good people. And I feel a little bit closer to you tonight, and I feel a lot closer to Ella. All right. So, I believe in praying to people that have passed away. So I'm going to add her to my people that I ask, things for. And certainly you guys will stay in my prayers as well. So I want to thank you for being with us tonight. It's really been an honor.
It's been a pleasure and honor for us as well. Thank you, Bob and Landon. Appreciate it. And we appreciate your support and the opportunity, and look forward to supporting your cause. And we'll get details to you about the defensive line as they materialize. And we'll get you some 49ers gear soon as well.
Good. And I'll join the walk next year. You know what I mean? I'll be out there to support you. And yeah, it'll be great. It'll be fun. They might have me in a wheelchair, but I'll be there. No, I usually like to ride in a golf cart on the walks.
There you go.
But it'll be fun. And again, thank you for your kindness and thank you for being here.
Thank y'all for being here.
In terms of all of our people that are watching tonight, I want to thank you so much. We changed things up a little bit because we wanted to honor Solomon's wishes because he has other commitments and be able to spend some time with him. What an amazing young man. Blessed to know him and to have him join us tonight as well as his parents. In terms of Ranch Hands Rescue, we're blessed. We're debt free. We got a little bit of money in the bank, that we save for a rainy day, but donations are down. I mean, COVID has affected all of us. We've had several fundraisers that had to be canceled as a result of, what's happening. And that's a loss of revenue of about $125,000. Our partner agencies that, we do counseling for have unfortunately had to are not able to send clients because of COVID, especially for the kids that are incarcerated and other, organizations that we do counseling for. Our grants are up, so we're blessed on that front that our grant partners are continuing to support our programs. and we're proud of that. And we're going to hire a couple of more counselors. We extended an offer to another counselor this week. And we got a waiting list of 45 kids right now that need services. So we hope to, over the next few weeks, get that waiting list down to 0. But at the end of the day, the general operations costs, grant partners and foundations won't fund general operations. So we've got to continually have fundraisers and, ask for donations so that we can pay the water bill, the feed bill, the animal bills, that sort of thing. And the staff. We can't have as many volunteers as what other organizations have, because when kids are in our program and they see strangers, especially kids with long-term sexual abuse, kids that have been human trafficked, they shut down. So we've got to have the same staff that they see every week, along with their counselor, and go from there. We're starting to get a lot of requests back now again for news interviews on sex trafficking, especially sex trafficking of boys. So that, we were scheduled to do quite a bit of news media, but that kind of got kiboshed with COVID, and then, the topics of the day. So a lot more requests are coming in. And we've taken in a couple of critical care animals, which, that information is on Facebook. And our little kitty that's paralyzed that's Julie and Denise have done an incredible job with that little kitty. But she's very feisty, got a lot of energy, and hopefully we'll be able to put her into a wheelchair here shortly, and then train her to be a therapy cat for the individuals in our program. We've had I got another letter today from a agency and law enforcement agency in Southern California about a young man who was human trafficked, sex trafficked, and no place for him to go. So we are diligently working to get Bob's House of Hope open. We've had to cut our budget by $850,000 this year because we can't have our in-person fundraisers. And our biggest gala of the year, that ordinarily, raises $350,000 to $400,000, is on hold because the hotel is closed. So, in Grapevine. So, we're like every other not-for-profit, just doing the best we can. Again, blessed that we're completely debt-free and all of our bills are paid, but still struggling to continue to raise money and think out of the box, to continue to fund our general operations. We're about to launch the Zoom meetings. We've got, as we shared last year, last week, you can now have an animal as part of your Zoom meeting for your corporation. And that's real simple to do. There's a bunch of different animals that you can pick from, whether it's Midnight, our little horse with the prosthetic leg, or Rue, our little dog with 3 prosthetic legs, or Daisy, our goat with the broken neck, or Moon Dancer. All of our animals have special needs, but they're all characters. So they can join your Zoom meeting. And then last before least, we've got our new CEU program, educational program that we're going to be launching. Landon's heading that up, and we're really excited about that. That's training and information for professionals, but it's also very valuable for parents and individuals that want to learn about specific topics relating to trauma, suicide, all kinds of different issues, all right, and how to deal with it. So that's one of the additional ways that we'll attempt to raise money. As you know, we're credentialed for all insurances, but the need continues to grow. All right, we did have a request I was told that our PTS program is the best in the state of Texas, and I'm really proud of that. They've asked us to expand it throughout the state of Texas. It's a good problem and a bad problem to have. Obviously, we can't expand our facilities to El Paso and different areas, of Texas because of, it's cost prohibitive. But what we can do is we can develop what we think is the recipe for success, the things that we do every day in our program to help people with severe trauma and PTSD. And we can share that with other organizations so that they can do the same thing that we're doing, and we can save thousands of animals and we can help thousands of people. And that's what we should all be doing, is taking care of each other and helping as many people as we can. So we walk this journey together, all right, and that none of us are alone. You know, I know what it's like to have fear, and I know what it's like to be afraid, and it's not any fun. So we've got to be able to have people in our lives that we can depend on. And I love what when Chris and Martha talked about honesty and having honest conversations. Boy, they hit the nail right on the head. All right, to be able to talk truly about our feelings and that sort of thing. So I think it was a great night. You know, I learned a lot. We'll post the links for the organizations that Chris talked about, and we'll post our website if anybody would like to make a donation. And again, I just want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. And what an honor to have the Thomas family with us tonight. 3 amazing people, eh, Landon? Boy, I mean,
Oh, I
really.
agree 100%.
Now I could be friends with them. They're my kind of people. Yeah,
You
amazing.
should be.
Yes,
You
they
will
need
be.
to be. Yeah, great. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great night, and may God bless everybody. And we'll talk to you next week at 7 p.m.
Thanks.